So, Chappell Roan had this interview where she said she thinks motherhood is hell and as such will not be having kids. You would think such a harmless statement like this will be met with understanding nods, people understanding where she's coming from, and respecting her right to freedom of speech. But no, people got mad instead. Luckily, the child-free women, the secure women, and the insecure but truthful mothers came through and saved the day. They talked some sense into the other women, and I was so glad to see that because the backlash was crazy. So many mothers trying to prove how happy they are. Like, there was no need for so many mothers to be this triggered. Let's roll the TikTok clips.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell. I don't know anyone. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age. I have like a 1-year-old, like 3-year-old, 4 and under, 5 and under. I literally have not met anyone who's happy, anyone who has like light in their eyes, anyone who has slept.
This is not looking too good.
I'm like, why did my parents do that? I'm the oldest of 4. My mom had me at 23.
Oh my God. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. I cannot stand seeing these videos of these mothers misinterpret what Chappell Roan was saying. She wasn't talking to you or about you. This was not involving you. She didn't say mothers. She actually didn't say mothers. She said my friends with kids, parents. She wasn't talking about mothers. She was talking about her friends that she has experienced in her life that have parents seem miserable, and she doesn't want to experience that. And that is okay. It's not saying that your experience is invalid, that no one should be parents. She didn't even suggest anything for everyone. She said, I'm not having kids because it looks like a bad time. And that is completely fine to think. I used to naively think that I wanted to have, like, I used to say when I was a kid, I want to birth 4 kids and adopt 2 because I want to have more, but I want to, have the experience of both and blah, 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 blah. And that's all well and good. And what a great plan. But I grew the fuck up and realized that that takes money, that takes away from, my career. My career involves travel. I wouldn't be able to do that anymore. Like, I have to make sacrifices for that to happen. And honestly, I'm not willing to make those sacrifices as a grown adult, knowing that what those sacrifices are. Point blank, period. Does that mean I don't want children or want them in my life? Absolutely not. I love children. I love my nieces and nephews, or technically cousins, whatever. My cousins who had children. I love them to the death of me. And I love working with children in my photography, with families and all that. Like, I love it. But that doesn't mean I want to have them, and does that not mean I should have them? And at the end of the day, it is so important for people like Chappell Roan with a platform to discuss this point of view, because it is not the mainstream point of view. The mainstream point of view is that women are meant to have children. And if we're going to go real traditional, submit to their husband, blah, 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 all this Christian traditional bullshit, in my opinion. But we need someone to contradict that point of view so that young girls and women and AFAB people are not told that the only course of action for them is to have children, because what's going to happen is they're going to have children when they're not ready, when they're not financially ready for it as well as emotional and all of that. And it's going to because who's going to suffer? The child is going to suffer because of this rhetoric that it's peaches and cream to have children and everything, that all the sacrifices are worth it. It's not for everyone. So let's stop pretending like it's worth it for everybody.
I'm married, I don't have children, I'm still very much on the fence about having biological children. With that being said, how much more individualistic can society get? Yes, this is about the whole Chappell Roan call her daddy thing. I got married pretty young. I was engaged at 20 and married at 21. My husband's a little over a year older than me, but we were very young when we got married. And people who didn't know us very well, or actually did know us, either assumed that I was pregnant or that we were super religious. Meanwhile, many unrelated factors went into why we got married when we did. One of which being we just enjoyed being together. Where am I going with this? I'm online a lot, it's part of my job. And inevitably I see people discouraging people from getting married young. Or I see anecdotes of people who got married young and it didn't work out, or people who regret those choices. And my first instinct isn't to come online with my husband and be like, well, I'm happy, I'm having a great time, because I know it's not about me or us. I know that that was their experience, and their experience is totally valid. And that's not for me to go into their comment section, or to stitch their video, or to make my own video being like, well, you're wrong, because I'm so happy. I don't think I need to go online and try to convince other people that I'm happy with my decisions, because I truly am happy with my decisions. Which leads me to believe that a lot of people actually aren't very happy with their decisions, even if they don't want to admit it to themselves. Which is also not Chappell Roan's problem, or anybody else's problem for that matter. I'm seeing a lot of the same attitudes toward the 21 with no kids trend. Again, I'm personally on the fence about having children. If we ever have children, it's probably going to be in our 30s and maybe even 40s. Or maybe never, but I just know that right now, we're not having any kids. I don't want to have any kids right now. Have you seen outside? I'm not doing that right now. But I am at an age where a lot of my friends are trying to get married. A lot of my friends are trying to have children. Or think about children. And again, they're not coming online trying to convince everybody else that their life choices were proper life choices. Because they're too busy living their own lives. And also, Chappell didn't say mothers. Chappell didn't say motherhood. Chappell said her friends around her age. That's her experience. That's their experience. Those are anecdotes from her experience. If your life is fine and you're 25 with like 3 kids and you're happy, why are you trying to convince the entire internet? Nobody's coming for you. You took it personally, I fear. Also, I think it's important to talk about different sides of the coin. A lot of people have kids because they think that that's the next step, and they don't have them because they actually want them. And I think it's perfectly fine to be realistic about certain outcomes so that people can make informed choices. Again, I don't get offended when people discourage people from getting married young. Because realistically, yeah, a lot of the times it doesn't work out. I've seen it happen. Considering that is not my circumstance, I don't get in people's business. In conclusion, if you are a parent and you're happy being a parent and you're happy with your children, Chappell Roan is not talking about you. And also, she wasn't talking about you to begin with.
When you say men ain't shit, there's always that one dude that's like, well, I don't suck. My girlfriend loves me. I took her out to dinner last week. Okay, congratulations, but when people are happy, they don't need to prove that they're happy. I'm currently dating a man, right? Sorry, I didn't give a trigger warning for that, by the way. If I called him on the phone right now and I was like, yo, Ferb, men ain't shit, he'd be like, damn right they're not. He wouldn't be like, oh my god, don't say that. I'm awesome and I'm a man, because he knows it's not about him, right? That's the exact same thing that's happening right now with this whole Chappell Roan motherhood thing. If you're so offended by her statement that you have to post a video of you like dancing around with your child to be like, see, not all mothers are miserable, like look at how happy I am with my child. Ring-a-ding-ding, the call's coming from inside the goddamn house. You have the ability to be a parent and be happy 100% of the time. That is fucking amazing. And like drop the tips and tricks, because I love children. Okay, I was a nanny for a while. I love the kids that I worked with. I was miserable sometimes too, because damn, kids can be fucking rugrats. That's why I don't want to have children, because when you have the children, there's no return policy. You can't like get rid of them if they're pissing you off, which is why nannying was great. Another reason I don't want to have children is that anytime I go out, I see these parents and they look fucking miserable. Whether I'm on the train, at the grocery store, just on a walk, you name it. I'll usually see, you know, a kid being a kid and their parents are just fucking screaming at them. Or let's say a family's walking and one child just decides that they don't want to move anymore, and then the parent will literally take their shirt and grab them. You know how many times I've seen that? If the kid's like, I want a candy bar, and the mom's like, no, and the kid's like, please, no, I need it, no, I need it, no. It gets annoying, and then the parent snaps at the child, and then the kid starts crying. That can be a miserable experience doesn't mean that you don't love your child, right? Or when parents have newborns, they'll be like, I am fucking miserable right now, like this child wakes up all the time in poopy diapers, whatever. Like, it doesn't mean that they don't love the child. It can just be a miserable experience. Like, I don't know why people just hate on Chappell Roan all the time. Like, I don't get it.
I've had this conversation multiple times on my page, but I am tired of having it. I understand that we have slipped into a fascist time right now. If you are happy to have had children, then someone being happy that they don't have children should not be affecting your life. Chappell Roan came on here and said that every single person that she knows that has children seems miserable. And she was right. Because why do you care if someone has children or not? It's not like we're in a children shortage. Actually, we have too many kids. The adoption centers are overrun. We're not running out of kids anytime soon. So you being upset at someone that they are happy and are bragging about not having kids and they have all this free time and they can keep all the money to themselves, is going to make me believe that you are miserable, that you have children, and you're just trying to cope. There's no reason you should be on here wasting your time trying to convince us that you're better than us for having kids. I saw this girl on here coming up, and honestly, if I really thought about it hard enough, I would cry because it's pathetic and sad. She said, oh, I understand why you guys don't want to have kids, because your lives aren't interesting enough to want to have kids. Like, you don't do anything in your life that's going to make someone else happy, that's going to make a child happy, so you don't want to have any children. That is sad. That's sad. I could have an entire long conversation, which I probably might, on how y'all view children like they're not human beings that you literally have to raise, like they're not a conscious being. Y'all treat children like it's just another step in your life, another level in your life that you upgrade to. And a lot of y'all are taking it way too personally. Take yourself out of the equation. Having children right now while the economy is crashing just doesn't sound attractive enough to a lot of us. If a good portion of America can't even feed themselves, let alone try to feed a child or multiple children, why the fuck do you think that we would engage in that? Based off that alone, having kids doesn't seem like that great of an idea. Now, attach onto that the fact that y'all look miserable having kids. I know fascism is on the rise, so this whole pushing children onto people and wanting to have kids is a part of the whole sequence, but it's stupid and it's not going to work. So y'all should stop wasting your time having this stupid ass argument. There are lots of young parents and parents in general who are like, yes, please wait to have children. Please wait to have kids. Do not make being a parent your dream, because it is hard. Go get with the other young moms and start a support group. Stop pushing all of that onto us.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell. I don't know anyone. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy.
Yeah, that's true. Babies are a lot of work. I don't know anybody with a baby or a toddler that's like, yeah, I'm the most well-rested I've ever been in my life. I mean, we love our kids. They're great, but, you know, sometimes it's nice when they're not there. I totally get that. And I know a lot of people who have chosen not to have kids, who don't want to have kids, and are perfectly happy. There are people who are really unhappy and think that they will feel better if they have kids. They think that they'll have a sense of purpose if they have kids. And then they have kids and realize, you know what, I'm still unhappy. But that also doesn't mean that not having kids automatically means you're going to be happier. For my wife and I, we got married really young. I was 19 years old. A lot of people expected us to have kids right away, to have kids when we were 20 to 23. But we waited 8 years to have our son for a lot of the same reasons that Chappell Roan said in this video. Because for us, we weren't ready to live a life that was conducive to children. We did a lot in those 8 years that we just couldn't have done with a baby. So when Chappell Roan sees her friends and she's like, they have babies and they are in hell, it's like, yeah, they probably are. But there's nothing wrong with that. There are a lot of hard things that are good things. There's no shame in being a mother. There's no shame in being a father. There's no shame in not having kids. There's no shame in not wanting kids. But I also want to say there is no shame in being sad, or being tired, or being exhausted. Whether you have kids or not, life is hard. I don't think Chappell was putting down her friends when she said that they're in hell. I think they were making an observation that between the ages of 25 and 35, we all change. We have different responsibilities and different lives. Sometimes we mourn the people we used to be and the freedoms that we used to have. And sometimes we wonder what life would be like had we taken a different path.
Hey, you liberal fruitcakes. Chappell Roan. Let's talk about it! By now, many of you have seen that video of Chappell Roan being interviewed, talking about her perceived outlook on people with children right now. Saying that she hasn't met somebody in her age group with kids up to the age of 4 who are actually happy. Saying that they're all in hell. And 1, I'm sorry that you feel that way. 2, I'm sorry that the people you have seen feel that way. But if you feel that way, that is a reflection on your morals, values, and priorities. And there's evidence to support this. So let's look into it! First, let's look at birth rates or fertility rates. Now, I already did a video on this, but it's important to look at the numbers again. On average, conservatives are having 1.84 children per couple, while liberal couples, on average, have 1.31 children per couple, leading to a nearly 40% difference between conservative couples and liberal couples. So conservatives are just having more children. Now, contrary to Chappell Roan's statement of her perceived view on child rearing and the people who are rearing being unhappy, studies have shown that child rearing, having kids, leads to higher fulfillment. It's almost like we are biologically driven to reproduce and have children. And not doing that leaves us biologically unfulfilled. For instance, there's a study that shows that raising children enhances brain connectivity. So the neurological pathways required for child rearing enhances your ability for critical thinking. Studies have also shown that people who rear children are more happy and have a greater sense of meaning and purpose in their life. Almost like there is a biological need for humanity to rear children. These studies have shown that it leads to a greater sense of purpose and a stronger sense of self compared to those of childless homes. Child rearing has also shown to be beneficial to long health, longevity of life. So even though child rearing can be hard, people who have kids are generally more happy. This is also why studies have shown that conservative men and women are more happy than their liberal counterparts. With studies showing that women between 18 and 40 who identify as conservative have been found to be more completely satisfied with their lives than their political counterpart. Although Chappell Roan has the right to say whatever she wants, and that our opinions are generally informed by the people we surround ourselves with, studies show evidence to the contrary. I look forward to the day that I have children. I want nothing more than to raise a family. A cute little house, white picket fence, dog in the yard, wife by my side. But I gotta find a wife first. Have a good day!
So I think people are missing the whole point as to why moms are crashing out that Chappell Roan said every mother she knows is miserable. I see a lot of people in the comments saying that the moms are miserable and that's why they're crashing out. They can't admit it to themselves and no mom who's happy would care. No, that's not it. This is why they're mad and you should be infuriated.
I'm a woman in my 30s and I don't have kids, but I have a lot of friends with kids, and I see the way society treats me and the way society treats them. Mothers are not allowed to be complete people, and you get misogyny from both political sides. If you express that you're really tired and you haven't slept in weeks, or that your toddler is frankly being a little wild animal because they're going through something, or even just that you're upset that you can't do the things that you used to do, people paint it as if you have ruined your life. And it's your fault and you're a miserable human being. I mean, I see this all the time where people say mothers are bad friends because they can't show up like they used to. Or mothers are selfish because they chose to have a baby even though, like, there's climate change. Or mothers are annoying because they ask for too many favors and they're a drain on society. It was your choice to have kids, so you deserve to be as miserable as that makes you. Or even the weird one, like, children should not be allowed in a majority of public spaces because children are annoying, which in turn keeps mothers from public spaces because we know that's who does the majority of childcare. But then if you express that, like, the biggest joy in your life is the fact that you had a child, or that you love your child so much and it's one of the best things that ever happened to you, you get framed as this person who has no goals, no motivation, no real skills, no real desires. You are not a worldly person, you are a simple person. And then you have this, like, creepy alt-right who is trying to tell you, like, congratulations, that's, like, your true calling. You're not allowed to really do anything else. And that is the thing that you should be doing, and that's kind of it. So at the end of the day, on one side, you are this unfortunate prisoner of your family that you designed yourself. You are the person who put on the shackles. And on the other side, you are this very flat being who has no other goals or passions, and you are fulfilling your true purpose on earth, which is nothing else. You don't get anything more. And nobody has this energy for anything else. Like, for example, when I started touring, right? Because I'm a musician. When I started touring with my band, we did the absolute worst tours imaginable. We would drive from New York to Kansas to play to, like, 5 people. And it was hard and it was terrible. And I would complain a lot about how hard and terrible and tired it made me. And I knew at the end of the day that it would lead me to the career that I wanted. The career where I got to tour Europe, where I got to, like, sing on TV. Whenever I complained about it to people, they were like, we're so proud of you for really, like, grinding it out and hustling. You're going to get to where you want to go. You're going to make it. You're doing all the right stuff. Nobody tells that to mothers. When they're up all night with a colicky baby and they're like, I'm just so tired. It's not you're doing the right thing and in a few years' time, you're going to feel that accomplishment you wanted. Instead, it's just like, well, you ruined your own life, so.
The people who have made me the most scared to become a mother are mothers. The people who have made me the most afraid of becoming a mother are mothers themselves. I'm engaged. We think about kids all the time. And I'm afraid that what Chappell said is all I see. Unfortunately, I related to exactly what Chappell said. Like, I see so many women who are like, this is miserable. And maybe they don't want to say that. And I feel like mothers are the most competitive, judgmental, nasty. Even my friends who have become mothers, the way that they talk about other women and other mothers is dark. I'm like, damn, like, I was going to invite, I'm engaged now. You know, we talk about kids, we were planning a wedding, and I was saying to a friend of mine that I was going to invite this other mother. I was saying to a friend of mine who's a mother that I was going to invite this other mother who we know in common. And she was like, rolled her eyes, and she was like, the way she's parenting those kids is just, I'm afraid the call's coming from within the house. Like, y'all are mean to each other. Listen, I debate every day if I want to have children. I genuinely don't know if it's something that I want to spend my time doing, because I'm acutely aware of how much of a job it is. And this is someone who loves kids. But I think what I see more is this overcompensation of, like, I am not just a stay-at-home mom, I work. It's kind of like how Nepo babies are like, I am not a Nepo baby, I work hard. It's like, no one's saying you don't work hard. That's not what stay-at-home mom means. It just means that you don't work in the workplace, that you work out of the home. I feel like attacked sometimes by people trying to prove to me that, like, I am not an idiot, I work. And I'm like, okay, great. And that's the only reason why I think people are responding to this, like, you know, these crash outs is like, because why do you care? If you're not who she's referring to, why do you care? Listen, I live in New York City. The amount of times that I see clips on here, people saying, living in New York, everyone I know is miserable, broke, tired, and, like, hungry. It's dirty. It's disgusting. Why would you live in New York? And I see stuff like that and I literally just keep scrolling. I'm like, I can't relate. Cannot relate. I live in New York. I love New York. I love my job. I make good money. I love my partner, my relationship, my friends. I love being, you know, like, so I just can't relate. So if you can't relate to what Chappell Roan said, then, you know, pay her no mind, obviously.
Someone who's struggling to decide on whether or not they want to have kids, Chappell Roan's comments about parenthood scared me. It scares me, but I'm not surprised. I mean, have you ever gone onto that Reddit forum about regretful parents? It's incredibly scary and also disheartening. I know many people that are parents, and I think the people that make the best parents are the ones that are incredibly transparent about how hard being a parent can be. But the people getting triggered in the comments, it's really interesting because to me, the way that I understood what she was saying, I interpreted it in the sense of parenting is incredibly difficult And I think two things can coexist at the same time. You can love being a parent, but you can also be exhausted. I'm not sure why people think it's just one or the other. Like, that's what I felt like I was gathering from the comments was, oh, I love being a mother. Like, but do you love being a mother 24/7? Like, I'm sure there are days where you are probably incredibly exhausted and you're probably like, oh my God, like I just really need a full 8 hours of sleep, and that's okay. I think we as a society need to just be really transparent when it comes to parenting. And like I said earlier, the best parents that I know are the ones that are incredibly transparent about how difficult it is to have a kid and not have community, finding childcare, money, all of those things. I'm 34 and I still can't make a decision on whether or not I want to have kids. I think for me, one thing that scares me about motherhood is that honestly, it feels like a lot of the burden is placed on mothers. Like, the kids always want to be with their mothers, like majority of the time. And again, this is my opinion. And obviously, like, my partner is incredibly amazing and I know 100% that he would be there. But at the end of the day, I still feel like the majority of the workload, and I hate to even use that term workload, is still going to be on me. But I do find it interesting, the people that were getting triggered in the comments because of what she said. And I think it's really important that if you do get triggered by that, to just reflect and figure out, wait, why am I getting so upset about these comments? Is it because being a parent has been incredibly difficult and you feel like you haven't had the space to be able to vent to people about how difficult it is? Like, let's normalize having these types of conversations about how difficult certain life experiences can be. And how do you even decide that it's something like you're ready for? Like, how did people who have kids, like, how did you make that decision? Like, oh yeah, okay, so like we're gonna do it. Like, how did you come to that conclusion? Because I can't come to that conclusion. There's just not a right answer for me right now. Anyways, I don't know what this turned into, but I think we'll figure it out one day. And if we don't, we don't. Anyways, hope y'all have a good day.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age. I have like,
that clip actually makes me emotional to listen to. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating because I know that's what a lot of the younger generation is listening to, and it's so far from the truth. I don't care who her friends are. I truly think that it is her perspective of like, you are misunderstanding hard work and hard days for hell. Don't actually make me mad right now. Is hell your child locking eyes with you across from a room and you immediately seeing them relax because they know they're safe in your presence? Is hell your child coming up to you and saying, love you, mom? Is hell the sound of little children whispering in the morning in their bed because they know they're not supposed to get up yet, but they're awake? Is that what hell sounds like? I'm so confused. Is hell your child asking for help? That's not hell. Owie, okay? So hi, if you've never seen one, here she is, a young mom of 3 children that didn't get any sleep last night. That's happy, life in her eyes and joy in her heart.
Backlash against Chappell Roan as a result of her comments on motherhood is not only deeply unserious, it is also very hypocritical. And in light of this backlash on the heels of that whole 21 with no kids trend is starting to just really show that a lot of people are deeply insecure with their choices. And also, the energy that a lot of people have for a 27-year-old pop star sharing her experiences and observations with her friends when they talk about motherhood. There are women who get on this app day in and day out who share the same experiences about motherhood. And while they may not refer to it as explicitly as a living hell, a lot of the things that people share, even their username, the tired mama, the overstimulated mama, the broke mama, what are we supposed to get from that? What are we supposed to get from that? I absolutely understand we are living in a time where their negativity is more likely to attract more views and go more viral and hit more eyes than the positive experiences. However, motherhood in this country is very challenging. It is very difficult. It is challenging and difficult before the child even gets here. In comparison to our peers on a global level, maternal mortality rates in America are terrible, even worse for Black women. There are no federal protections for mothers. The cost of daycare and childcare is astronomical. And we are living in just a time and a climate where community is absolutely eroding.
which all of these things make the motherhood experience very challenging. This is a reality. And the reason why I say this backlash is deeply unserious is because there's all this smoke for Chappell on the internet now. People are, fighting for their lives. Moms are coming at her left and right. But when it's time for y'all to get active in the booth, in the place that it would matter, everybody on mute. Y'all are not expecting and demanding and asking more from your elected officials that would make the experience of motherhood, especially motherhood for children and to children under a certain age, the age of 5. Y'all are not voting for and demanding more from these politicians, these elected officials who actually have the power to create the change that would make being a mother in this country less of a hellacious experience. But y'all got smoke for this girl, this 27-year-old pop star. Y'all are unserious. Y'all are deeply unserious.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell.
I can't tell you the exact date, but I have a very vivid memory of when I decided that I would never have children. I was in the throes of a deep and dark depression, the third deep and dark depression I'd been in at that point in my adult life. I had gone through an intense breakup. My community members around me were failing spectacularly to show up for me in ways that I had shown up for them. I was working to get promoted at work because I knew I wanted to live completely alone while also barely being able to function, creating my TikTok so that I could have other opportunities to diversify my income at that time, and also I had created the Down Ballot as well, my nonprofit organization. So I was doing a lot of work while barely being functional. And I knew if I had a child next to me, a living, breathing human being who needed me to show up for them, I wasn't sure that I could do it. And knowing just how much depression has been a part of my journey as an adult, but also as a child, I realized then and there that my mental health was not compatible with motherhood, was not conducive to motherhood for me personally. Because motherhood is not just labor, it's also often a test of your ability to withstand incredible amounts of pain, psychological pain, emotional pain. I've made videos about the reasons that I have for not wanting kids and listing a number of things like your partner abandoning you, etc. But the thing is, y'all have made those videos too. In fact, mothers have come on this app and talked about how they're basically raising their kids alone. They're basically a single parent. We discussed the importance of mental health care for mothers because of postpartum depression. So why are we seeing such a backlash on what Chappell Roan said when we know that yes, many mothers are indeed absolutely miserable because of capitalism that forces you to do all this labor on your own, because of patriarchy that makes you a single parent in your own house despite having a husband right there. Like, we know all these things, so why are we acting? What's with the outrage? The lady doth protest too much, methinks. Thankfully, I've been born in a time period and with the ability to say that, hey, I don't want kids and I can live freely and comfortably knowing that saying that. Deciding to opt out of motherhood is indeed a privilege that not many people who are mothers currently have. In fact, many people would reverse that decision if they could. And Chappell wasn't saying you're miserable. She was saying the people she knows are miserable. She wasn't talking about you. The goal for all of us is to make sure that all mothers are happy and supported in their choice. And that starts with a realization and an admission that, yes, motherhood can be miserable.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell. I actually don't know anyone who's happy and has children at this age.
The problem with how so many young people view having kids nowadays is that they're looking at it through a lens of what's in it for me. And if you're having kids for the right reasons, that's literally the opposite of the mentality you go into it with. You go into it with a mentality of unselfish love, which is probably the purest love there is. You are doing it not because you think having a kid is going to make your life easier or more glamorous or more comfortable. You're doing it because you want to create a human being. You want to bring a human being into this world and set them up to have a life filled with purpose and happiness and comfort for them, not for you. Having kids should not be about what's in it for me. But by having that mentality of what's in it for them, that mentality of unselfish love, you ultimately end up benefiting, because experiencing the feeling of unselfish love is one of the most euphoric, ecstatic, purposeful feelings that a human being can ever have.
I think if you're one of the mothers who is deeply offended and outraged by what Chappell Roan said about motherhood, you might be one of the moms she's talking about. I just keep seeing all this discourse about what she said, and I went and watched it. I thought it was going to be so much worse, so much more provocative. And to me, it was clear that she was just talking about the struggles of parents of young children, mothers in particular. And is that really deniable? That as much as you might love your kids, as much as you might be thrilled with your choice to have them, it can be really hard having kids who are sleeping through the night, who need to be fed all through the night, who are still in diapers, who just are dependent upon you for your every need. And this is only exacerbated by the society that we live in that places so much of the onus on moms, that doesn't provide adequate maternity leave, if any paid leave after having a child, where mothers can feel so isolated, where everything's so expensive. I don't think she was saying that the choice to become a mom is inherently bad or that her friends don't love their kids, just that it's a tough time. What's weirdest for me is reading through these comment sections and seeing people act like there's a huge anti-motherhood backlash, that we're in a time where society is against moms, and the only way that that's true is the ways that women have always been attacked for whatever choice they make. It's like you just can't win. You have the baby or you don't have the baby. You have a baby and then you have postpartum depression that you are struggling through without adequate health care. You have the baby and then it's hard to afford the essentials. You have the baby and then there is no access to early childhood education or these programs that would allow you to get back to work. You have the baby and you want to be home to take care of it, but you also don't want to lose your job, and you have a workforce that's not going to welcome you back in after a few years. Those are the ways that our society is anti-motherhood. It's not women against women. As someone who is in her 40s and has no kids, I can guarantee you that from my perspective, what I feel is not that we're taking a turn toward a society that doesn't expect women to be mothers. That is absolutely still the ingrained across the board expectation. I've heard it all about how I'm lonely, I'm unfulfilled, I'm like not fully feminine, that I'm going to die alone, that I'm selfish. I've honestly heard it all. It is still society's expectation of women, despite all the ways that it fails us and crucifies us for any decision that we make, and I think Chappell just shed a tiny bit of light on that. I just want to add, I love her music, but I wouldn't put too much stock in what she says in general, given how unformed, sort of disengaged, uninterested she seems to be in politics in general. I think she was just talking from her own perspective, and it doesn't need to be that deep.
Chappell Roan's recent statement on Call Her Daddy about motherhood rubs me the wrong way. Let's talk about it. She said all her friends who have kids are in hell. She has not met anybody who has kids at her age that are happy. She described it basically as miserable experience. Not only is it a generalization of a secondhand experience that she doesn't know, but it is also a harmful narrative that I believe contributes to why moms feel isolated. I'm not a mother myself, but to generalize my friend's experience as just that one venting moment in motherhood, I don't think that's fair to them. I think it makes a fool out of me if I do that. To my mother friends, I'm gonna be honest with you, I could never fully understand what you're going through, but what I will say is you're always gonna have a safe space with me, no judgment, and I'm only gonna take your statement as it is. Being a mother is hard, dude. You're sacrificing so much. You had a head pop out of your hoo-ha. Mothers, I love you. Thank you for giving me my nieces and nephews. What I never want for you is to feel isolated, because I'm all ears. Anyways, have a good day.
I just don't understand why you don't want to be one of us. Our lives are great, and I think it's really selfish that you can do literally whatever you want at any given time. Like, you could take a nap in the middle of the day and have no responsibilities at all. I just think it's really mean to like point it out. I feel like you're like rubbing it in my face and like other moms' faces, and like you just think you're better than everyone. And when you say you don't want kids, we know it means you actually hate moms, and you're a part of the misogynistic agenda. It's really unfortunate that you can just like spend your money however you want. Not fair.
You want to be child-free, you're most likely doing it because you're rejecting like conservative values or society's expectations of you, and you believe that you have felt devalued as a woman or a person because you don't want to have kids.
No, that's not what's going on, at least not for me. I'm not child-free because I'm sticking it to the patriarchy and a feminist. I mean, I am a feminist, but that's not why I'm child-free. I'm child-free because that's what's right for me. It's like saying that the reason that I personally am not married is because I'm against the institution of marriage, when actually it's just because I haven't found the right person yet. And so, by the same token, I don't see someone who has become a mother as someone who has given into the patriarchy or whatever. I see it as she wanted kids and she's doing what's right for her. But there are some mothers who had kids because they believe that that was just the next step of life and it's what they were supposed to do. But I don't look down on those mothers. I am confused by the thought process, but I don't look down on them.
You perpetuate that same devaluing on women who are choosing to be mothers. You are choosing to not have children, but then you claim you know that being a mother is hard. But the second that a woman does not have an opinion on motherhood, a mom does not have an opinion on motherhood that matches society's expectations, you continue to devalue them.
I don't believe it's devaluing mothers to take mothers at their word. I do agree with takes that Chappell Roan should probably not be airing her friend's dirty laundry on a podcast that's listened to by millions, but it's just the fact that most mothers will, even briefly, consider themselves miserable in motherhood. And in my opinion, it's a disservice to them to hear them say, I'm miserable right now because my baby is teething, and interpret that as motherhood is perfect. Do you want us to take mothers and women in general seriously or not? When a mother tells me she's miserable, I'm gonna believe that she's miserable. Just like when they tell me they're having a great time being a mom, I'm going to believe that too. It's not devaluing to believe what someone says about their own life. We're actually doing the opposite of what you're stating. We're believing women even when they express something that society doesn't agree with. If we were devaluing them, anytime a mother expressed to us that she's miserable, we would be like, no, you're not. You love being a mom. You're just at a hard stage right now. Instead, what we're saying is, I hear that you are miserable, and I believe you so much that I'm going to take that misery into account when planning my own future. That sounds like the utmost respect to me.
There are people who are undecided on whether or not they want kids, and they see Chappell Roan's 2-minute section of her interview talking about motherhood through the lens of her friends and the people in her life, and they decide not to have kids because of that little tiny slice of that interview. Thank God. If that is all it took for them to decide that they do not want to be parents, I think we should all rejoice. Personally, I feel like this whole entire narrative, right, that someone could make a big decision just based off of what their favorite celebrity is saying about motherhood, I think that narrative is invalidating to people who are making the decision to not have kids. I do not understand why people think that people deciding to have children are spending more time thinking about it, more time talking about it, than people who are making the decision to not have children, when becoming a parent is literally ingrained in our society as the next step. Please ask yourself the question, when someone comes up to you and says, hey, do you want kids? And your answer is yes, are you peppered with questions? Is anyone clutching their pearls? No. But when you say, hey, I actually don't think we want kids, the pearls are clutched, the questions are peppered. Do you know what I'm saying? That is what we experience. So we always have to be ready to defend our decision to not have kids. That requires a lot of thought. I promise you, nobody is going to make the decision to not have kids based off of what their favorite celebrity says. I'm sorry, it's just not something we have to worry about.
Mamas, it's time for you to find a safe place. Find a safe place where you can bitch out loud, where you can complain about how hard motherhood is, how hard it is for you to find the time and find the money and find the patience. Find a safe place. I truly believe that Chappell Roan's friends thought she was a safe place. Thought she was a safe place to put it down, to complain about their day, to talk about how hard it is and how hard their kids are, how they don't have resources or don't have money or they're not enough hours in the day. They thought their friend came home from tour and wanted to hear them. But instead, what she took away was a little bit of judgment, saying, listen, she has every right to say does not look fun from out here. But the same can be said from people who are on tour, because when you work hard and you have a safe place to talk about it, it sounds like bitching. It sounds like being ungrateful for things in which you are grateful for. I know professionals who are on tour, who the minute they step off that tour bus, they talk about how long they've been away and how hard it is and how, their voice hurts so badly and how they're fatigued and how it wasn't worth it. But they're called to do it. Oftentimes what we are called to do is difficult. What we enjoy doing is hard. And we all need a safe place to bitch about it. We all need a safe place with people who understand us. So for you mamas out there, I need you to find a safe place, because if you were a safe place, you'd get it. You'd understand that they didn't hate motherhood, but they just knew it was difficult, that in that moment they needed to vent. And I think now more than ever, we need safe places to vent, brave places to be able to say, whoo, I selected this, I chose this, I love this, but damn, it's hard. I think when Chappell Roan's friends were talking to her, they were just truly sharing how it was. But that doesn't mean that they don't love it. That doesn't mean that they don't love their children. And that doesn't mean that there aren't amazing and fun parts, but oftentimes when you are in a safe place, when a place of somebody who's going to listen to you, somebody that you trust, you let them know the hard times and how it feels to be exhausted and overworked, and maybe even in some cases underappreciated. So I hope that all you mamas out there have a safe place to land. And I hope when Chappell Roan is exhausted from her tours and tired, that she has a safe place to complain and to bitch. Because everybody deserves that. I don't think all her friends are completely unhappy. I just think that they thought she was a safe place.
You guys are missing the point. Chappell Roan said she doesn't want to be a parent, and that the parents she knows are miserable. You getting up in arms saying Chappell Roan hates mothers or thinks motherhood is horrible is really telling me much more about how you view yourself and your role as a mom than society or Chappell Roan. Chappell Roan is not attacking mothers. She said parents. She didn't say mothers. As a mother of 2 children, I am not offended at all by what Chappell said, because I know that Chappell's opinion doesn't affect my experience as a mom. He doesn't know you. So unless she knows you and she's saying that you are miserable, you really don't need your panties in a wad over what Chappell said about parents, okay? Which just further goes to show how much you are missing the point. Motherhood was marketed to my generation as what you do. It wasn't really marketed as an option. It was marketed as the option. It was marketed as wonderful and blissful and fun and easy and what moms wanted to do, okay? Now, I will admit that part of that upbringing for me was very religious, okay? So outside of religious communities, the influence is probably different, and I'm speaking from my personal experience. If you are given an expectation of motherhood, that it's fun and easy, and then you become a mom, and it's not always fun and easy, yeah, I would say that would probably make a lot of moms miserable, or at least sad sometimes, or disappointed. And it's because this generation does not have the support that previous generations have had. This generation of moms, in general, not all, but in general, way less support from extended family, less village, and having kids is hard, okay? Saying that having kids is not hard is not doing you or anyone else a service. And sometimes being a mom, you will be miserable. And that's okay, because in any job you have, you will sometimes be miserable, and that's okay. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I love my children and I love spending time with them. I also think it's important to note that childless adults don't often know how to interact with their friends that are parents in a way that's easy for them and their children. If you're bringing your children to a really not child-friendly environment, the parents are gonna have a lot harder time. Whereas if you were willing to meet your friends who are parents at a place that's designed for children, where they're gonna be relaxed and they're gonna have a lot more energy to put in you rather than making sure their children don't like. Motherhood can be incredible. It doesn't help anyone at all for you to grind in your heels and say, no, motherhood is incredible. I've never been sad. Because we all know you're lying. It's okay. It's okay that it made you uncomfortable that somebody called out the hard parts of being a mom, because being a mom is so tangled and you've been taught to not express that discomfort. And so when someone says, we know that you aren't happy, it feels like an attack because you've been trying really hard to hide all of the moments of unhappiness that are woven in with the moments of happiness of being a mom.
All of my friends who have kids are in hell. I actually don't know anyone who's like happy and has children at this age.
People are giving her so much hate for this, but we need to talk about why this is happening within a particular group of people. Because there are a lot of people that love being a parent. Chappell Roan and I are about the same age, and I love being a parent. All her friends don't like being parents. Why? We need to talk about culture. It's not just resources. Resources make a huge difference, but it does come down to culture and how your brain has been formed and shaped, how you view, how you experience parenthood and what it means to transition into a parent and like giving up parts of yourself. Now in the United States, we are in a very hyper individualistic culture. So if we don't get to meet all of our own desires and wants and needs, we have a really big problem with that. But it is even more rampant in progressive cultures in the United States. A lot of people feel very inconvenienced and resentful when they have to sacrifice parts of their own identity to serve another person. And I'm not saying this because I think it's like a malicious thing. I think it is just the way that people have been conditioned and raised in whatever environment they were raised in. Because it's not just random for certain people to begrudgingly parent, to not really enjoy it. They love their kid, but they don't love the role of being a parent. And then you have people that try to have children because they actually understand the value that it means to create a family. So whenever we do not prioritize that foundation of having a family, like that's your goal, that's what you're striving for, that is what success feels like to you, is to have a healthy, cohesive, thriving family unit. But instead you see yourself as outside of your family and you're still just an individual and you happen to have a kid, you're not going to be enmeshed in this experience and actually embrace it fully. Because all you're going to think about is, okay, well, what do I need? What do I want right now? Rather than, what does my family need? What does my family want? How can we all work together as a unit? Rather than like, I'm over here, my kids are over here, my husband or partner's over here. You know what I mean? And if that's how you experience parenthood, then you will always feel like your children are barriers to you. They're barriers to you because you can't just serve yourself when you want, how you want, but you have to serve other people as well. How can that be enjoyable for anyone?
Okay, so to summarize, there is nothing wrong with Chappell Roan's statement. There was absolutely nothing wrong. First of all, she said the mothers she knows who are her age are in hell. If it don't apply, let it fly. The fact that you have to come and prove to us how happy you are lets me know you're miserable. And two things can be true at the same time. Some mothers are happy with their kids and still miserable. Society doesn't like child-free women, but that is not child-free women's problem. And the reason why so many women are unhappy with Chappell Roan's statement is that they were promised a false ideology of motherhood. They were told they were gonna get a village, and now they're doing it all by themselves. Things are getting even more expensive in this administration. Not to talk about how thankless of a job motherhood is. If you didn't have your child with a sensible man, chances are you were a miserable, married, single mother. I'm sorry. Also, let's not forget how much of a toll childbirth takes on your body. There are so many things that have to go right? So many things that women have to face. Some women didn't know about all these problems they would face once they started to have children. And now that they're facing these problems, they regret having had kids. They wish they had known sooner. Some hate motherhood too, regardless of whether they love their kids or not. So all of these things are bubbling under the surface. Beneath all the fake joy that some mothers, I'm talking about the ones that are genuinely unhappy and find time out of their busy mom schedule to attack child-free women. We literally went through a similar outburst from mothers during that 21 with no kids challenge. If you're happy with motherhood, be happy. Don't attack other women for not wanting kids. If women are going to go further and beat the patriarchal system, we can't be launching pitchforks at each other and at women who make their own choices. That's counterproductive, ladies. The whole point of the feminist movement was to give women freedom of choice. Don't shit on other women's choices, please. That's not very girl of you.